please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reminder, if you could please silence your electronic devices, that would be appreciated. Call the Village of Massena Board of Trustees meeting for January 19th, 2016 to order. Roll call, Mr. Offeld. Mr. Carville. Here. Mr. Shays. Here. Mr. LeBeer. Here. I'm here. Entertain a motion for approval of minutes for the November 19, 2015 meeting. Mr. Offeld, second by Mr. Shays. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes for December 1, 2015 meeting. Mr. Offeld? Second. Second by Mr. Shea. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of officers and committees. We have the Treasurer's Report. We have Mr. Carl Safeart here from Safeart and Safeart, our CPA. Carl. Welcome.
Good evening. I think everybody got a copy already. I want to start off by saying there's no bad news today. This is a good news audit. You guys did a wonderful job. Really, no significant issues that we need to talk about tonight. So then we'll only do every other page. Keep it short. Actually, I'd like to hit on page 1. And the only reason, and what I'd like to point out is this is our audit opinion. It's one of the few things in the entire document that's ours. And a couple of key things, and we try to point this out to everybody at least once a year, is that, and the AICPA and the federal government and everybody else is on this board, on this bill, is whose responsibility and whose financial statements these are. A number of years ago, we'd come and somebody would say, you said in your report, meaning the financial statements, but these are your financial statements, and they're your responsibility to be sure that they're fairly presented. All we really did is maybe a little bit of cleanup and make it formatting, but nothing more than that. Juliet did the financial statements, so we're ready when we came in. We were able to audit the statements, audit the adjusting entries that she had done to do that, and that part went really well. And like I said, our job, your responsibility is the financials. Our job is to audit it, to say, yeah, do we agree with you or not? And our opinion on that is that we think your financial statements are fairly presented. That's as good as you can get with that. Your numbers may say a different story, but we did a good job on those financial statements. Okay. One of the other things that goes with that, when we don't have any adjusting entries to tell you about or big changes, that means that you're getting good reports throughout the year. If we said, yeah, we had a whole bunch of adjustments to make, that would mean, well, we might wonder, are we getting good, accurate information? But in this case, I think you're getting good information throughout the year because we really had no corrections to make. So that's a good, solid indicator. I'm going to jump ahead to page 21. We talk about this every year. And it's, if you look, you've got down in the net position section, you've got a negative 7.2 million, give or take. Most of that is due to the OPEB, which is the other post-employment benefits, where the actuary comes in and does that actuarial evaluation of the future payments they're going to be making for retirees' health insurance. So right now you're recording a fairly large amount. You've got $8.7 million recorded on your financial statements for that. In their infinite wisdom, the people that write the rules for what you put into your financial statements have decided that next year you're going to have to pick up your share of the over or underfundedness of the retirement plans. So the employee retirement system, the police retirement system, if they're over or underfunded, you're going to pick up as an asset or liability an additional expense for what that over or underfunded share is. For the schools last year, ERS was underfunded by a little bit, and TRS was overfunded by a whole lot. So they picked up an asset and liability for that. And people say, well, that's not under our control. There's nothing we can do about that. Why do we need to pick it up? Or what does it really mean? It doesn't make sense. Well, I was at one board meeting, we were talking about it, and came up with the idea that by having that asset sitting out there, for an overfunded retirement system, if you go for bonding, it's showing the bonding company that you're in pretty stable position with your retirement system. There's not as likely to be a lot of big jumps or, you know, to make up things as if you were in a state that had maybe pay-as-you-go or some other kind, they were way underfunded because they weren't paying for that liability. So that's you know, about the only thing we could come up with is where that really would impact you, is it would show your bonding people the kind of stability we're in. And ERS being slightly underfunded probably isn't a major issue, especially when you compare it to all the other, you know, other states and localities.
So what are we, if you were to, if that was in effect this year, what kind of an effect would it have on our asset? Or I assume there'd be a liability, correct?
If they're underfunded, it would be a liability. I don't know where the police or firemen's retirement systems are. What has to happen is those systems get audited, and then from their audit report, they extrapolate out to each of their participants what their share would be. And they have a formula for doing that. Without really knowing what that is, you know, I really.
So they'd send a report to the
They
treasurer?
yeah, and it
Okay.
usually comes, the ERS came out in late summer last year, because they had to go through their audit, and of course things had to change once, you know, they changed it twice before they finalized it. So it's completely dependent on when they get that information, what it turns out to be. And it's got to do with the market and all their other, you know, things that we want to fund in it. So it's nothing you really have to do, nothing you can control over it, you just have to get it into your financial statements and they give you the information to do that. And either, to help with it all out for this year, the comptroller's office, I don't think they've issued how they want it done yet. We sent them an email with our rationale for how we were gonna do it, and they said, yeah, you're getting the same place we are, so we're in the right ballpark with that month. Okay. On your fund level statements, like I said, you had no real changes. We had no changes to any of the numbers that you reported throughout the year. So those are the numbers that you received from Julie as you went along. The only finding in the back is our old friend with the segregation of duties, which you've had for a while. Probably not much you can do with it without hiring people, and you have to be careful if you're hiring just to fix that, or if you've got other good reasons for doing it, which is probably a good idea, but we just need to make sure you're aware that that segregation of duties issue exists, and that you have to keep the audit committee active, keep monitoring your numbers active, keep asking questions and staying on top of things.
Pacemaker group?
What hat talking?
Then we have the one other little letter here, the management letter. There's really not too much that's significant in that. Actually, most of it says that you cleaned up quite a bit. Cleaned up isn't the right word, but we've seen really good improvement, especially in the financial reporting area. Let's see. Must be a question. Also see that you're getting on top of some of the IT issues we've discussed over the prior years. Looking at new systems to come in to replace the old accounting system. I don't know who's more excited about that after you guys. That was kind of a bit of a dinosaur, and I think you'll be able to do a lot more with that system. We encourage you to keep up the training. Julie goes to training I don't know how regular you go every year to trainings, and we really encourage that because there's so many changes coming on, and the better you understand how those changes affect you, the better you'll be able to be. The only other minor issue was that we noticed in the Justice Court some of the reports were going out a little bit late, and that at the end of the year impacted how Julie reported some of the transactions for payments and receivables. Relatively minor issue, especially since I think you got to handle it. Does anybody have any questions? If you should at a later time, don't hesitate to give us a call.
Thank you, Mr. Skipper. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Earl. Continuing on with the treasurer's report.
You've each been provided with balance sheet and revenue and expense actual to budget comparison reports for the month of December. A summary of the 5 major funds is shown in your report. Year-end projections have been updated with actual figures through December and have been distributed to department managers and the board. You're currently in the process of completing quarterly and calendar year-end reporting. W-2s have been printed and will be distributed to employees by the end of this week. And the 1099 miscellaneous reports have been calculated. We hope to have those printed and filed by the end of this week, but if not, it will be by the end of the month. On December 16th, the village received $107,264 in reimbursement for expenses that were incurred with the 2012 home grant. Annual CHIPS funding in the amount of $220,974 was received from the New York State DOT on December 18th, and the village also received $30,629 as part of the $40 million extreme winter recovery appropriation from the state. Our annual share of the NYPA relicensing funds, which is $22,000, was received from St. Lawrence County Treasurer on January 4th. I have 4 action items this evening. The first...
Julie, before you get there, was the
Yes.
CHIPS or the extreme winter recovery appropriation what we expected?
Yes.
Okay.
The first action item this evening, I would request a motion to accept the draft audit report that was presented by Carl just a few moments ago, to be finalized and filed with the various regulatory agencies.
So moved. Mr.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carl. Discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Next, we have a corporate banking resolution. I didn't attach it to your report because it does contain account numbers on it. In summary, this is to authorize myself as treasurer and Adam Love as the new police chief to have authority over the police fines account. We would be the signatories on the account and are able to deposit and write checks on the account.
Make that motion.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Shea. Discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And next,
Resolution. Okay, I have resolution. Mr. Rocco. Aye. Mr. Carlin. Aye. Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Lever. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
okay, and next, I'll be looking for a motion to adopt some budget amendments and transfers. If you flip over to page 2, we have 4 different transfers listed. The first one is actually a new line item to show expenses for the credit card fees that the village pays. This was a recommendation by the state office controller. We originally, when that was set up years ago, they netted the amount of credit card fees against the revenue that came in from the fees, and they suggested that it be taken out and shown separately. So that's what the first transfer is, to show an amount of $3,500 to cover credit card expenses and to be taken out of the water fund contingent account.
Christie, so you're taking these all as a group, or you want to take them individually? Group? Group. Okay.
The second transfer was actually discussed early in the fiscal year, and at the July 21st board meeting, the board approved a bid and authorized purchase for a new backhoe. When Haas requested this purchase, the board okayed to set the appropriations for the expense of the backhoe against fund balance out of the general fund, refuse fund, and sewer fund. And for the third transfer, in the budget had been, the adopted budget had been approved the purchase of an air compressor through the sewer fund. It ended up being more money than was budgeted. So back in the July 21st board meeting, the board approved the bid and authorization for the purchase and to take the extra money needed out of the contingent account from the sewer fund. And the last transfer is for another new line item that we have started to use to distinguish the expenses for code violations. Previously, these were taken out of accounts from the DPW, usually the parks account or a streets account. So we've also wanted to take those out so they show up all together. And that would come out of the contingent account for the general fund as well. Looking for a moment. Does anyone have any questions regarding any of the transfers?
So what's it, we've had $10,000 in code violations so far this year, is that what's?
I think that's probably, it will probably get close to that by the end of the fiscal year.
So moved.
Mr. Alco. Second by Mr. Carter. Discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And lastly, the second attachment to the report is for adoption of the annual correcting and refunding erroneous taxes resolution. We do this each year in January. It is a recommendation from the county director of real property. And what it does is allows the village, with the recommendation of the county director of real property and the approval of the village treasurer, to be able to make corrections or refunds for taxes in a more timely and efficient manner.
So this is just so you don't have to wait for a board meeting to do it?
Correct.
So moved.
Mr. Alco, second by Mr. Levere. Discussion. Hold by resolution. Mr. Alco.
Aye.
Mr. Carroll. Aye. Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere. Aye. Resolution carries. Any questions for Ms. Sherrill? Thank you. Committee reports, code enforcement, Mr. Carroll, Mr. Levere.
Nothing new to report this time. We'll be meeting, we had a meeting scheduled, had to reschedule it to a later date, so we'll have some items in a meeting or two's, some code recommendations.
Economic development, Mr. Alco, Mr. Levere.
Yeah, I had a question for you. I sent a note to, you said we discussed it at this meeting. Can you go over the progress that the water students made as far as any grants that they've established? I want to know if we're getting the bang for the buck.
I haven't worked that out completely already. I'm going to get it to you and then we can discuss it at the next board meeting if you don't mind.
Okay.
Just haven't had time to get through it.
So, you know what I want.
I do.
Okay, very good.
I do.
Thank you.
Anything else? Fire committee, Mr. Mr. Carvel, Mr. Rivera.
We got an item later on in the agenda, there's a couple items.
Personnel Committee, Mr. Carvel, Mr. Deshays.
And at this time, we'll be short for that.
Police Committee, Mr. Carvel, Mr. Deshays.
Once again, there's an item later on in the agenda.
Chief, any? Recreation, Mr. Deshays.
Yeah, a new appointment to the rec board is a fellow by the name of Josh. He replaces Martha Slack, who was there for 15 years. She opted to resign to go to Myrtle Beach. She picked the perfect time to leave. We're checking on a grant, $15,000 grant for the playground. The guy's checking into that, looking for the equipment. He's supposed to get back to us on it. During the holidays, they had free skating. It was donated by donors. Really appreciate it. Every year they do it. It's beautiful. Hockey, the Massena Cup tournament was held January 15th, 16th, and it's 3-on-3. And they put on quite a show down there. They had beautiful weather for it. Then they also are checking to see if family swim night will come back. They're trying to get that going again. They usually haven't. They want to keep it going during the year if they can get it going, get enough people involved in it. Would be a plus during the fall and winter season. The Mike tournament, which is set up for February 6th, there's 24 teams already signed up for it. They're from all over New York, Northern New York, Franklin, St. Louis County. And they had, the budget committee was set up. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Street Committee, Mr. Alba, Mr. Rivera.
No.
And water and sewer.
Let me get a discussion item later on.
Moving to a next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My timing was perfect coming in here to segue with the announcement of the Power Authority issuing us the $22,000 through the agreement. I'm sure Haas already used that, though, to move snow around this weekend. So thank you to the Power Authority for their generosity, although they net over $1 million a day out there. I'm here to ask, are we still engaged with Willanis Law Firm as far as grant writing?
A subsidiary of theirs, yeah, strategic.
A subsidiary, okay, so I don't understand. Is it still part of Willanis Law Firm? Any monies go to Willanis Law Firm as far as payment?
We contract with strategic development.
Okay. How does Willanis play into that?
As I just said, they're a subsidiary of them.
Okay, well, okay, good. Then what disturbs me is that Willanis Law Firm, and I have my theory on why they're doing this, is suing the village, along with the other members of the task force, for $3 million. I think what they recognize here is they're going after the low-hanging fruit. I don't think they did a good job as far as negotiating with the Power Authority on our behalf. I think, first of all, the high school, or the Massena Central School District, should be taken out of the equation because they're the only ones that voted against the agreement. So they shouldn't even be mentioned in the lawsuit. But I would say that I would encourage the board or any other municipality that's involved with the task force or anybody in the county that to refrain from doing any other business with Willanis Law Firm. Why would you pay them to do grant writing in one hand, but they're going to turn around and sue you in the other hand? Okay, this doesn't make sense. And I think there are plenty of other grant writers out there. I would hope that the board would come to their wisdom and say, you know what, you're going to do this to us, we don't want to do business with you. So I leave it on your hands. I just don't think that it's a fair representation or the right thing to do to the village of Massena and the other folks that are involved with the task force here. So I hope you'd consider that.
Thank you. Further public comment? Mr. Griff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yesterday, the town of Massena offices were closed, as was the post office, financial institutions, all county, state, and federal offices. The village of Massena was open. I can't imagine with all those other offices being closed, it was very easy to conduct any kind of outside business. I think the public would assume because it's a national holiday that your offices are closed, so I can't imagine there's a lot of walk-in business. The implication is that the village of Massena doesn't consider this a legitimate holiday. I'm just wondering what the rationale is for the offices to be open. There's nobody else in the building, there aren't people coming in to conduct business.
First of all, that's not a fair implication.
No, I'm not saying changing.
Secondly, you know, as a former village employee, as a former department head, holidays are covered under the collective bargaining agreements and the employee agreements. They are not a decision made by this body. They are negotiated with bargaining units. That's the rationale, negotiations.
The office is here too, upstairs here, or downstairs? The public office.
There's an agreement.
Okay.
There's an agreement with the employees, management employees. There's an agreement with the office staff. This board makes. There's negotiation. Holidays are decided upon. It's give and take, as you know, with everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment? Seeing none, we move on. Old business, Gagne, regarding they were looking for the funds to utilize for advertising and to try to promote the various events that are occurring in the three communities, and that's how they would be utilizing the money. He indicated that he would, if we choose to provide them money, he would provide any supporting documents to go along with it and how the money is spent, so that we're okay with that.
I think there was a question on if we were even legally able to do so. And even if we are, I don't believe there's anything budgeted, is there, for this type of expense?
There's nothing in the current budget.
Had we had ample notice to where something might have been budgeted, maybe I'd be, I don't know, but I don't think we're in a position personally, I don't think, to give away $5,000 or any amount.
Hearing no motions, we move on. Discussion New York State DOT Complete Streets Policy. Trustee LeBeer and I are working, as many of you know, working with Karen Beige from Community Coordinator for Creating Healthy Communities. We're also now working with the State Department of Transportation. They have agreed to hold a workshop here sometime this spring. We have a conference call scheduled now for next week. So once that conference call occurs, we'll be looking at scheduling a date for that workshop. And what that workshop will do is train community stakeholders in the entire Complete Streets policy and how to write a policy, things you want to look at. So with regard to parking, pedestrian safety, handicap parking, all those, street design, making your community safe for vehicular, pedestrian, and other traffic on the streets. So we wanted to bring that to your attention. So that's a significant decision by the DOT to bring that workshop here, and it's at their expense. So it should be pretty good for us.
I did participate in the webinar regarding the various grant opportunities through the state and federal government and the implication of complete streets. It's an interesting area. They're starting to move more towards encouraging and requiring that these policies be in place for the various government programs. So it's definitely looking like it would be advantageous for us to adopt some type of complete streets policy, especially if we're going to continue to aggressively pursue grants.
What's the downside of it? There's always a plus and minus whenever something.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've seen is the implementation is making sure you don't tie your hands on any future projects or development. So it's all on how you write the policy. I sent a couple of examples of policies. If you look at those, some are a two-page, we will attempt this, we will always consider this, and then others have a binder that a special committee and they will authorize, so the downside is potentially your own undoing if you don't implement it properly, but the great thing is having this resource of the workshop and having the right stakeholders is moving through. I'm pretty sure we'll go on a good path.
How will this affect the cost of these projects in the future?
Can't answer that. It's all on how your policy's written. It could have zero effect, could have some impact. All depends on how we end up writing the policy. And this board would be the board that would adopt the policy, so.
Thank you.
Discussion, water penalties, this was tabled from last meeting.
We were waiting on information from you, for outside agencies.
There is no new information that changes anything. There's, we have no other recourse other than what we decide to do.
I'll make a motion to credit customers charged with late fees on their December water bills in association with mirrors and delivery. And I would expect that this would be on their February bill, because the people that would have received their bills in December will probably receive those in February.
Hearing no second. Moving on.
It would be hard to expect a resident to pay a bill that they don't know how much they have to pay.
Unfortunately, existing law tie our hands. And if there's a legal way we can do it, but I haven't been presented with anything I want to violate. As, I won't use the word I want to use, as crazy as that law was and tied our hands.
It's all in the interpretation, and I think I pointed out several different ways that it could be interpreted. It was interpreted.
I think for, were the statistics shared at the last meeting with regard to how many bills?
One person
I
still.
believe so.
I'm sorry?
You sent some statistics on it, and we looked at it. I mean, if it happened to one person because of this, I feel it's still bad. I mean, I'm good, that's me.
Well, just a note to that, weren't you supposed to check in with the state on this and find out, get a final interpretation, because it wasn't cut right?
There's no new information on it.
No more
It's the same
information on
as
it. And we checked with our lawyer and everything like that, and our hands are tied. Even though I agree with Tim, I think it's an awful slap in the face, as you well know what I said, I blamed it on the post office. They're the ones that made the mistake. It's too bad, the people had to pay for it. It's ridiculous, but
I think it's fair to say we all agree.
I know it. Our hands are tied.
Moving on to new business, proposed resolution to authorize.
Before we get
Don't
into this,
do that now, or you want to wait
yeah,
till we get
let's
there?
do it.
Okay.
Only take a minute. Discuss personnel.
That's what you were going to call.
I'm sorry.
You were going to call anyways.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, you were gonna do one?
Yeah.
already? Okay, I didn't know that.
You want to wait till we get to there?
Sure,
or-
sure, I'll withdraw the motion.
Either, okay. Thanks. New business, proposed resolution authorized intermunicipal cooperation agreement with the town of Maverick. You know, this is an annual agreement that we've done
So
for a number of years. Mr. Levere. Second.
Second.
Mr. Offeld. Discussion. Pulled by resolution. Mr. Offeld.
Aye.
Mr. Carvel. Aye. Mr. Deshays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere.
Aye.
Resolution passes. B, proposed resolution, approve shared service agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Mr. Levere,
Second.
second by Mr. Deshays. Discussion. Pulled by resolution, Mr. Offeld.
Aye.
Mr. Carvel. Mr. Deshays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere. Resolution carries. Proposed resolution, approve the one-year agreement for custodial services at Massena Community Center. This is an annual agreement with this. This reflects this new number of 50 cents per visit increase, so every time they clean it's costing us 50 cents more, or 50 cents more, or 1%.
So,
Mr. Rocco.
Second?
Second by Mr. Shays. Discussion. Poll individually, Mr. Rocco.
Aye.
Mr. Carvel. Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere.
Aye.
Resolution carries. Proposed resolution to authorize the submission of municipal wastewater recycling project and master grant contracts for recycling containers. Mr. Fay, did you want to add to this?
I shall. This was based on the grant that I wrote back in 2012 as part of the process and procedures. The state requires a resolution be passed for the purchase of the two grants that I drafted up, and they pay up to 50%. So this is what we're looking at, 50% of the recycled containers, which I anticipated purchasing for all the accounts that we have in the village of Massena. For this resolution, the next resolution would be for half the vehicle that we also purchased prior to the grant.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Levere. Second by Mr. Carvel. Discussion. Poll individually, Mr. Ockel.
Aye.
Mr. Carvel. Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere.
Aye.
Resolution carries. Proposed resolution authorizing the submission of municipal wastewater reduction recycling project and master grant contract for purpose of recycling vehicle. God, I'm glad I have to say that twice. Same lines as Mr. Fay, I just explained.
so moved.
Mr. Ockel. Second by Mr. Carvel. Discussion. Poll individually, Mr. Ockel.
Aye.
Mr. Carvel.
Aye.
Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere.
Aye.
Resolution carries. F, proposed resolution authorized agreement with Massena Fire Department, Inc. for fire protection.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Carvel, second by Mr. Shays. Discussion, I would just summarize this. This is a one-year agreement. I thank the fire committee and I thank the volunteers for negotiation with this. We settled this today without significant changes to this. All individually, Mr. Rocco.
Aye.
Mr. Carvel. Aye. Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere.
Aye.
Proposed resolution, approved lease agreement with Massena Fire Department, Inc. for the lower basement. Motion by Mr. Carvel,
Second.
second by Mr. Levere. This is an agreement that we began discussing with the volunteers several months ago. As you know, they occupy the basement of the fire department. So we've been in discussions with the volunteers on working a lease agreement so that they would have control of the facilities. We would be reimbursed for that. The amount will reflect basically $2,867 per year. So you understand how we came up with that agreement. We essentially took the agreement of space that we rent here in the town hall from the town of Massena, because there really was no number out there that we could use. So we said in fairness, we would look at what we're currently paying for rent from another municipality, and we applied the square footage rate the same to the volunteers and reached this agreement. So this is a big step forward, I think, for both entities. So I appreciate the volunteers working with us on that. Further discussion? Poll individually, Mr. Ockel. Mr. Carvel. Mr. Shays.
Aye.
Mr. Levere.
Aye.
Resolution carries. H, authorized for construction of garage at water treatment plant. Mr. Fayette.
Yes, this is a capital project that I anticipated. I put in the capital portion of my budget, however, it is shown in there. However, there is a unappropriated fund balance in that account of roughly $40,000. So I anticipated using and utilizing a portion of that to construct a garage over at the water plant, which is gonna house our village equipment, that being a pickup truck, and also a lawnmower and a plow. Currently, we store the pickup truck outside as well as the plow, and also the lawnmower in the summertime, we store that outside where it requires a little bit more attention. Now, the seat is weather checked, it's being exposed to the elements and prematurely wearing down. So I anticipated building this facility over there, or this garage, just to extend the longevity of the equipment that we have. That's the intent.
Budgeted, funds are there, and help save the equipment.
Well, it's shown as the 2015-16 item that I anticipated building, and I anticipated using the unappropriated fund balance of a portion of that 40,000 that's in there. That's, actually, that account is set up, it's structured, the 110 account is structured. It's the label of it is the Water Treatment Plant Improvement Fund, and it's specifically for purposes such as that, to build a garage, or if you had a header you had to build, or some unanticipated things that you needed to do. But that's what it's for, the capital construction at the water plant.
So,
What's the, sorry, second, I asked a question now.
Sure.
What do you reckon, what's the, how much do you think it'll cost?
I think it's gonna range probably in material alone, because we're gonna build it in-house ourselves, and hopefully we're gonna panelize it over the winter. Probably be around $15,000 to $18,000.
Further discussion?
Just a comment. This project was not budgeted in the 15-16 budget. It will require a budget amendment. I would recommend that we do the budget amendment once the project is completed, so that we'll know how much money to apply to that project.
So we have the exact amount. Further discussion? That's a resolution. Full individually. Mr. Alco?
This is a resolution.
Well, money's involved, so.
Everything we do is money's involved. I made a decision here that it cost somebody something. But anyway, yes,
Mr.
aye.
Alco? Mr. Carver?
Aye.
Mr. DeShazer?
Aye.
Mr. LeVere?
aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Annual appointment of fire chiefs nominated by the volunteer fire department.
So moved.
Mr. Alco? Second by Mr. Carver. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Congratulations, chiefs.
Gentlemen.
Okay.